podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Deep Dive. Today, we are unpacking a topic that genuinely can change the trajectory of your entire life. How to systematically build confidence, especially if you feel like you are starting from absolute zero or maybe, have seen your self-belief eroded over time.
It really is the most requested conversation we have, isn't it? Because confidence, it isn't just about feeling good. It's the engine. It drives action, opportunity, and that deep, genuine self-trust. We've spent time really looking at sources that move past the usual motivational cliches. They offer more of a true blueprint. So our mission today really is to give you that clear understanding what confidence truly is, why it sometimes vanishes, and how step-by-step you can cultivate it right from the ground up.
And the core belief we're anchoring this deep dive to is, well, it's simple, but it can be pretty revolutionary for a lot of people listening. Confidence is not innate. It's not some fixed trait you're either born with or tough luck you're not.
Right.
It's a developed skill. It's built, like any muscle, really, through consistent, intentional action.
That distinction is just crucial. If you're listening right now and feeling a bit defeated, maybe like your confidence has been gone for years, or maybe you feel like you just missed the boat on it entirely.
Yeah.
Please know you are perfectly positioned right now. This is exactly where you need to be to start this rebuilding process. You don't need some huge, sudden psychological shift. What you need is a sustainable, actionable strategy.
Absolutely. We're aiming to move beyond just think positive, right? We're diving into the practical psychology behind it.
Exactly. And to lay out that blueprint, we have to start at the foundation. We need to get really clear on what true confidence actually looks like, what it is.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because when most people hear confidence, they often think, I don't know, volume, certainty, maybe even swagger. But often that's just covering something else up, isn't it?
It really is. So often that image of confidence is, well, it's arrogance, isn't it?
Yeah.
The person who's always the loudest, maybe the one dominating the conversation, appearing to know every single answer. Our source material just dismisses this straight away. That's performance.
Yeah.
True confidence is much quieter, it's more internal, and honestly, it's far more durable.
So if it's not that external bravado, that sort of showiness, what's the simple definition we should carry with us?
The purest definition. It's simply trust in yourself. It's an inner calmness, a quiet belief that, look, whatever comes your way, whatever difficulty, whatever uncertain, whatever inevitable mistakes you're going to make, you'll manage. It's the conviction that, okay, I might not know how to handle this yet, but I have the resourcefulness, I have the resilience to figure it out as I go.
That distinction, believing in your ability to figure things out, not your ability to be perfect, that feels like the biggest mindset shift right there.
It is.
It just liberates you from that pressure of having to know everything. And that calm belief system, it's fascinating when you pair it with another feeling, fear. People think confident individuals are fearless.
Oh, that's probably the most persistent myth we really have to debunk. Confidence is absolutely not the absence of fear. Fear is, it's a hardwired survival instinct. It's normal.
Right.
What confidence does is it teaches you how to relate to that fear, how to interact with it. So instead of letting fear dictate your actions, paralyze you. Confidence means you're willing to act even while you feel afraid.
Wow.
It means you learn to acknowledge the fear, accept it's there, and then choose to proceed anyway. You learn to walk beside fear rather than letting it steer the ship.
And this leads us straight to the fundamental principle of this entire deep dive, doesn't it? Confidence is built through action. Through doing, not just thinking about it. The sources use a really compelling analogy here. The baby learning to walk.
It's the perfect metaphor, honestly, because it just strips away all our adult complications and baggage. Think about the process. A baby isn't born knowing how to walk. They try. They wobble. They fall. Hundreds, maybe thousands of times.
Thousands, yeah.
But they don't analyze their failure, do they? They don't develop shame around falling. They just get back up and try again. And each attempt, each fall, each successful little moment of standing for just a second longer, it builds this database in their brain, this physical competence. They're essentially collecting evidence that says, okay, I can move my body this way. And falling, it's not catastrophic.
We really need to adopt that adult mindset, don't we? That beautiful, relentless refusal to internalize temporary failure as something permanent about us.
Absolutely. Confidence isn't built by reading another article about confidence or sitting around thinking, gosh, I wish I were more confident.
Right.
It's built by doing. Every single small action, even the ones that result in a stumble, it proves to your brain, okay, I am a capable agent in the world. I can influence things.
Yeah.
You're physically creating these neural pathways that reinforce self-trust through repeated small successes. You're literally building a solid portfolio of evidence that counters your self-doubt.
And that idea, collecting evidence, it brings us really neatly to the second part of our framework. Before we jump into the building phase, we have to look honestly at the things that might have, taken that evidence away in the first place or prevented us from collecting it.
Understanding the traps is absolutely half the battle. If we know the source of the loss or the blockage, we can guard against it much more effectively as we rebuild.
Okay, so what are the biggest culprits? What are the things that typically erode our self-belief?
Well, the sources consistently outline 4 major psychological traps. And the first one, honestly, it's exponentially more dangerous now than probably ever has been before. It's comparison.
Ah, yes.
We are just constantly, relentlessly exposed to the curated narratives of other people's lives, their successes, their perfect moments.
And the fundamental imbalance there, it's what we're comparing, isn't it? We're comparing our own, raw behind-the-scenes footage, our struggles, our messy attempts, the emotional cost of just trying, to someone else's highly edited, carefully lit, perfectly scored highlight reel.
Precisely. And if you're comparing your unfiltered internal anxiety, your moments of doubt, to someone else's polished, professional, external presentation, well, the outcome is pretty much guaranteed, isn't it?
No.
You're going to feel deficient. You're going to feel like you're falling short.
Yeah.
And this often gets magnified by what psychologists call proximity bias. We tend to compare ourselves most harshly to those closest to us, maybe people we see frequently. We forget that they, too, are probably comparing their struggles to our highlight reel, whatever that might be.
Right. It's a cycle.
It is. And this trap, it just steals your sense of uniqueness, your sense of value, before you even get a chance to act. It undermines you from the start.
Okay, so comparison is trap number 1. What's the second major trap?
It relates directly to just being human, really.
It does. It's failure and criticism. When we experience a setback, or maybe someone offers some harsh judgment, the instinct for many people is often to internalize that failure, to see it not just as an event, but as a statement about our core identity. I am a failure, or I am fundamentally incompetent. And that internalization is it's catastrophic for confidence, isn't it?
Absolutely. We have to perform a complete and total reframing of what failure means. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a mandatory input for success. It's part of the process.
Your mandatory input, I like that.
Every confident, capable person you can think of, they're defined not by an absence of failure, but by their response to it. Failure is just data. It's information. It tells you about the path that didn't work this time. The trap is believing that the failure of the task means a failure of the self.
And then there are the voices. Trap number 3. That relentless internal commentary. It often feels like it's trying to protect us, right? But it's actually holding us back.
These are the negative voices,
Yeah.
and they are incredibly potent because, while they sound like your thoughts, they sound like truth. They whisper things like, you're not ready yet, or wait until you're perfect, or everyone else definitely knows more than you. It's so vital to recognize that this voice is not objective truth. It's simply fear and anxiety in disguise. It's your brain's ancient primal mechanism trying to keep you safe by keeping you small, by making you avoid any possible risk. We have to learn to separate the narrator from the actual facts of the situation.
And the final trap? It's almost a socially acceptable form of self-sabotage, isn't it? Perfectionism.
Oh, perfectionism is arguably the biggest confidence killer of them all. Why? Because it prevents the fundamental act required for building confidence, which is starting.
Right. You never even get out of the gate.
Exactly. It's that constant waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect skill level, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling of readiness. But here's the paradox. Confidence comes after you take action, not before. Waiting to feel ready is it's self-sabotage, pure and simple. And it's usually rooted in the fear of being vulnerable or being judged as imperfect.
If you demand perfection from yourself before you even start, you basically guarantee inaction.
You do, and inaction guarantees zero confidence growth. It's a closed loop.
Okay, so those traps, comparison, internalizing failure, negative voices, perfectionism, they're pretty universal, I think. But just recognizing them, naming them, it gives us the power to consciously start disarming them. And now we move into the really tangible part of this deep dive, the 10-step rebuilding plan. This is designed to take you from maybe a foundation of 0 to a real bedrock of genuine self-trust.
Yes. Let's transition fully from understanding the problem to executing the solution. And we start, crucially, with the internal environment. Because your thoughts, they genuinely shape your feelings, and your feelings, ultimately, they shape your capacity for action.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Step one, reprogram your inner voice. We've identified that negative voice as fear talking, but how do we practically battle that relentless internal narrator day to day? It feels so automatic sometimes.
It does feel automatic, but it's a skill you can build.
Mm.
Psychologists call it cognitive restructuring. Look, you can't simply stop negative thoughts from popping into your mind. It's like trying to stop birds from flying over your head.
Oh, yeah, impossible.
But you can absolutely stop them from building a nest in your hair. It starts with active interruption and deliberate rephrasing. Every single time a negative absolute thought surfaces those always or never thoughts, you have to stop yourself and apply a specific counter language.
Okay, give us the specifics. What are the practical swaps we can use that start to change the narrative almost instantly?
All right, so when you catch yourself thinking, or maybe even saying out loud, I can't do this, you immediately consciously substitute it with the learning statement, I'm learning how to do this. See the shift? It moves the statement from a fixed inability, like it's a permanent trait you have, to a temporary status. It frames it as a skill that's currently under development. Your brain processes that as growth potential.
Okay, that makes sense. From can't to learning how. What about the big generalizations like, I always mess things up?
That's another classic. When that thought comes up, I always mess things up, you switch it to something more realistic and empowering. Sometimes I struggle, but I always find a way to improve and overcome. It acknowledges the difficulty, which is honest, but it refuses to let that struggle define your overall competence or your future actions.
That reframing, it's key because it replaces that constant self-cruelty with a measure of self-compassion, doesn't it? I always appreciate the analogy. You absolutely must treat your inner voice like you would talk to a cherished friend. You'd never speak to a friend with that level of absolute paralyzing cruelty.
Never. You'd offer encouragement, perspective. And to make this rephrasing really stick, to make it more than just a mental exercise, we strongly recommend implementing a nightly ritual. We call it the Nightly Proof Library.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Nightly Proof Library, what is it?
It's your cognitive evidence collection. It's simple but powerful. Every single night before you go to sleep, you physically write down 3 things you did well that day.
And this is where the specificity really matters, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about, winning the lottery or getting a massive promotion.
Exactly. We're talking micro victories. Small, actionable, measurable wins that prove your capability and your discipline to yourself. Maybe you finally sent that nervous email you'd been putting off for 2 weeks. That's a win.
Okay.
Maybe you kept a tiny promise to yourself, like drinking enough water today or sticking to that 10-minute practice session you committed to. Win. Perhaps you managed to smile genuinely at a stranger despite feeling shy inside. Or you made a conscious choice to sit up straighter during a stressful phone call.
Those seem so small, but...
They are small, and that's the point. These small acts, when documented, physically actually written down, create an undeniable portfolio of evidence against your self-doubt. So when that negative voice inevitably shows up tomorrow morning saying you can't do anything right, you have tangible proof. You can literally look back at your notebook and say, look, I have a library of proof right here that shows I am capable, I am taking action, I am making progress.
This feeds directly into step 2 then. Build small wins every day. Because confidence is essentially an accumulation of competence evidence.
Yes, and we must emphasize starting small. The human brain loves momentum, it thrives on it, but it absolutely hates drastic, overwhelming change. If you try to overhaul your entire life overnight, you almost guarantee failure. And that failure leads to shame, which just destroys confidence further.
Right, back to square one or even worse.
Exactly. So instead, the strategy is to choose one tiny thing each day that pushes you just slightly outside your current comfort zone. Just a little nudge. This is about making commitments to yourself that you know you can keep. That builds reliability. You start trusting yourself because you see yourself following through.
Okay, let's make this super practical again. If someone's anxiety is triggered by speaking up in meetings or social settings, what does a micro win look like there?
Okay, for the meeting scenario, your goal for that entire meeting isn't to deliver a groundbreaking speech. Your goal is simply to share one short, relevant thought. Or maybe ask one single genuine question. That's it. Mission accomplished. Win recorded.
Simple, achievable.
For social shyness, don't aim for a deep, hour-long conversation right away. Aim to make genuine eye contact and offer a simple, warm hello to the cashier or the barista or your neighbor you usually just nod at. That small commitment, when you execute it successfully, it generates a tiny little dose of dopamine in your brain. It rewards the effort and makes it slightly easier next time.
Okay, and what if the doubt relates more to mastering a new skill or tackling a big, daunting project?
Often the micro win there is simply showing up, just engaging with a task. Commit to dedicating only 10 minutes a day to practice that skill or working on that project. Just 10 minutes. It sounds almost negligible, doesn't it?
Yeah, like what difference can 10 minutes make?
But that small act, done consistently day after day, it's infinitely more powerful than waiting for some mythical 6-hour block of free time to magically appear in your schedule. You're activating the power of stacking. These small daily efforts, these tiny wins, they stack up. They accumulate into solid, undeniable proof that you are reliable, you are capable, you are making progress.
It keeps coming back to this, doesn't it? You can't just think your way into confidence. You have to act your way into it. That seems to be the core mantra weaving through this whole deep dive.
It really is the fundamental truth of it, which brings us nicely into section B of our plan. This section focuses on leveraging that powerful connection between our physical body and our mind. Our external state heavily influences our internal feelings.
Okay, so step 3 is strengthen your body language and voice. Now, this isn't about being fake or manipulating people, right? It's about using your own physiology to signal safety and capability back to your own nervous system.
Exactly right. The posture and body language you adopt actually changes your neurochemistry. There's fascinating research on things like power poses,
I've heard of that.
which shows that simply opening up your posture, standing tall, grounding yourself firmly, can physiologically reduce cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and potentially even increase testosterone, which is linked to feelings of confidence and assertiveness. Your body is talking to your brain.
This feels like a perfect opportunity for anyone listening to actually try this right now as they're listening.
Right.
How do we execute that optimal, confident physical presence?
Okay, let's do it. Take a moment right now, wherever you are. Actively adjust your posture. Sit up tall or stand tall. Pull your shoulders slightly back and down gently. No tension. Open up your chest area. Lift your chin just slightly off your chest. If you're standing, feel your feet hip-width apart, firmly grounded on the floor. Connect with the ground. Now, focus on slowing down your movements. Confident movements tend to be deliberate, measured, not frantic or jerky. Avoid fiddling nervously with your hands or hair. Those are often unconscious, self-soothing gestures that signal anxiety to yourself and others. Instead, just allow yourself to take up a little space and practice making eye contact. Even if you can only hold it for just a single second longer than you normally feel comfortable doing, that's progress.
And the voice element is so crucial here too. When anxiety spikes, our voice often does that thing where it gets higher in pitch and we start talking really fast.
Yes. Rushing your words is a physiological sign of wanting to escape the situation. It signals doubt both to the listener and, importantly, back to your own brain. So to project calm and power, you need to consciously practice speaking slower, not faster. Use intentional pauses between your sentences. A pause isn't weakness, it's control. It allows your thoughts to settle, gives the listener time to process, and signals that you're comfortable. And vitally, focus on breathing from your diaphragm, deep down in your belly, rather than taking those quick, shallow breaths from your upper chest. That deep, controlled breathing grounds your tone and prevents that shaky, high-pitched effect that anxiety can cause.
Okay, so posture, pace, pauses, breathing. And before stepping into any situation that you know triggers nervousness, whether that's a difficult conversation, maybe a first date, or giving a presentation, the sources suggest using a really simple self-calming ritual beforehand.
Yes, this is the pre-situation affirmation. It's quick and effective. Right before you walk into that stressful environment, just step aside for a moment. Take 3 deep, slow, controlled breaths. Really focus on the exhale. And as you do, quietly say to yourself, just internally, I can handle this. That combination, the physiological calming from the breath, paired with the cognitive reaffirmation of your capability, acts like a rapid circuit breaker for that fight or flight response. It helps prepare your brain for measured, thoughtful action rather than panic.
Simple, but sounds powerful. Okay, moving on to step 4. Handle failure and rejection. We have to acknowledge up front, the pain of rejection or failure is real. It stings.
It does.
You can't necessarily avoid it entirely in life, so the goal becomes managing the recovery, right? Getting back up faster.
Exactly. The truly confident person isn't defined by never failing. They're defined by the speed and effectiveness of their recovery from failure. The absolute key is to shift failure in your mind. Move it from being a reflection of your identity, I am a failure, to seeing it purely as a source of learning data. Okay, that approach didn't work. What can I learn?
So how do we teach our brain to actually do that, to process the sting, learn from it, and convert it into growth, rather than letting it paralyze us or send us spiraling? Our sources detail a specific three-step reflection process.
Yes, this is crucial for building resilience. When a failure or a rejection happens, first, absolutely give yourself permission to feel the sting briefly. Acknowledge the disappointment or frustration. Don't suppress it entirely, but then initiate this discipline process. Step 1. Describe what actually happened. This must be purely fact-based data. Remove all judgment, all emotion, all the dramatic narrative your brain might be adding, just the objective facts. For example, I submitted the proposal by the deadline and the client informed me they chose the competitor's bid. Full stop.
Okay, facts only, no story.
Step 2. Describe how it made you feel. Be honest with yourself here. It made me feel disappointed. It made me feel embarrassed. It made me feel angry. Acknowledge the emotional toll. Just name the feeling without getting stuck there or elaborating endlessly.
Right. Acknowledge, don't wallow.
Right.
And then comes the critical pivot, doesn't it? Moving away from self-pity towards empowerment.
Exactly. Step 3 is where the learning happens. Ask yourself 2 crucial forward-looking questions. What specifically can I learn from this outcome? And secondly, what will I commit to doing differently next time? This structure forces your internal energy to shift. It moves you from passive victimhood, that why me state, into proactive agency, the what now state. Failure stops being an ending point and becomes instead probably the most powerful educational tool you possess.
And crucially, we have to remember to leverage that perspective check we talked about earlier regarding judgment from others. The fear of being judged often far outweighs the actual reality of it.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Psychologists call it the spotlight effect. We tend to deeply believe that everyone else is watching us, analyzing our mistakes, and judging us with the same intensity that we are judging ourselves. The simple, liberating truth is, they usually aren't. Most people are completely wrapped up in their own anxieties, their own performance evaluations, their own internal self-judgment dramas.
Right. They're the main character in their own movie, just like we are in ours.
Precisely. The moment you truly internalize that the idea that the external judgment is usually negligible compared to your own self-imposed scrutiny, the fear of failing in public starts to diminish significantly. It loses some of its power.
Okay, now we move into section C of the plan, which focuses more on how we interact with the world around us and how we protect our newly built confidence. Starting with step 5, be assertive and set boundaries. For many people, especially those who identify as people pleasers, this feels really counterintuitive. But the sources stress that confidence without boundaries is basically unsustainable.
It's completely unsustainable. True confidence is fundamentally rooted in self-respect. And self-respect requires boundaries. It demands them. Think about it. If you're constantly people-pleasing, constantly saying yes to commitments that deplete your energy or violate your time, or maybe even contradict your core values and priorities, you end up internally exhausted.
Burned out.
Burned out, and crucially, often resentful. You start feeling resentful towards the very people you are trying to please in the first place. And that internal resentment, it's toxic to self-trust and self-worth.
So setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's actually essential self-management, self-preservation even. But for someone who's really accustomed to just saying yes immediately, almost on autopilot, where does learning assertion even start? It feels daunting.
It starts internally before you even say anything to anyone else. It starts by defining your own energy limits and values, what some sources call defining the difference between your soft and hard boundaries. A soft boundary might be a preference. For example, I prefer not to take calls after 8 p.m. A hard boundary is a non-negotiable limit based on your well-being or values. Example, I will not take on projects that require me to work every single weekend. You have to establish these limits clearly for yourself first. The confidence comes from acknowledging internally that you deserve to protect your own time and energy.
Okay, internal clarity first. But then comes the external part. The fear is always about disappointing someone, maybe starting a conflict, feeling guilty. How do we navigate that initial wave of discomfort or guilt after actually asserting ourselves, maybe saying no for the first time?
You acknowledge the guilt.
Yeah.
You notice it, but you don't let it dictate your action. Guilt, in this context, is often just a learned response, a conditioned habit from years and years of prioritizing others' needs over your own. We teach listeners to practice using a simple, kind, and clear script. And crucially, understand this, you do not owe anyone a long, rambling, defensive explanation for your boundary. Practice saying no using a phrase like this. Thanks so much for thinking of me for this, but I'm afraid I can't take that on right now. Or simply, thank you, but my plate is full at the moment.
Short, Polite and firm. No wiggle room, no lengthy excuses.
Exactly. Confident people respect their own time and energy, and demonstrating that self-respect actually invites, sometimes even demands, that others start respecting it too. When you consistently honor your own boundaries, you are collecting massive, powerful evidence that you value yourself. And that is the deepest, most authentic form of confidence there is.
Okay, boundaries are key. Step 6 is building social confidence. For many people, this is probably the most terrifying part of the whole journey, the fear of awkward silences, saying the wrong thing. But our source material makes it clear this doesn't require you to suddenly transform into a huge extrovert and become the life and soul of every party.
Absolutely not. That's another misconception. Social confidence isn't really about your output, how much you talk, or how witty you are. It's much more about your presence and your genuine curiosity about others.
Mm.
Often, the most confident-seeming people in a social setting are actually the best listeners. The fundamental shift is moving your focus away from impression management. What do they think of me? Am I saying the right things?
Mm.
Towards connection. How can I learn something interesting about this person? How can I make them feel seen and heard?
So instead of frantically formulating our next brilliant statement in our head while someone else is talking,
Yes, stop doing that.
we should be genuinely focused on the person who is actually speaking right across from us.
100%. The core technique here is simply to ask open-door questions. These are questions that invite real engagement, that encourage more than a one-word answer, rather than closed-door questions that can be shut down with a simple yes or no.
Hmm.
You're essentially using your natural curiosity as your confidence tool. It takes the pressure off you to perform.
Okay, give us some concrete examples of those good open door questions.
Sure. Move past the superficial stuff like, how are you? Or what do you do? Which often lead to dead ends. Try questions like, what's something you're genuinely excited about lately? Or, that sounds interesting. How did you find yourself getting into that line of work? Or maybe, what's been the best part of your week so far?
Mm.
These questions invite stories, opinions, passions, and then crucially, you need to listen deeply to the answer. Show genuine interest. Maybe ask a follow-up question based on what they just shared. When you do that, that positive reciprocal energy starts to flow.
Right. It becomes a two-way street.
Exactly. You're making a connection, not just trying to impress. And connection inherently feels good. It feels rewarding. It builds your comfort in those situations naturally.
And when you make other people feel seen and heard, that positive engagement actually builds your own comfort and confidence in the interaction. You start to realize, oh, this isn't actually scary. It's kind of nice.
It is. And you could start practicing this in low-stakes situations first. Try it with a cashier at the grocery store, or a coworker you usually only wave to, or the barista making your coffee. Just one open-ended question. Over time, your tolerance and even enjoyment of social interaction expands organically. Remember, focus on genuine curiosity, not performance.
Okay, we've covered the internal belief system, our physical presentation, building resilience to failure, and now connecting through boundaries and curiosity. Now we move into the final section, Section D, which is all about sustainability and creating long-term momentum. Step 7, create confidence habits.
Yes, because confidence isn't something you just achieve once, tick a box, and then keep forever without effort. It's much more like fitness. It requires a maintenance plan. It's built and sustained through small, consistent daily habits that continually reinforce the self-trust of the skills we've been discussing. We need a simple, sustainable daily routine.
Okay, let's detail that structure again for the listener, make it really concrete.
Right. It's a 3-part daily cycle. Morning. Before the day's chaos begins, take those 3 deep grounding breaths we talked about. Stand tall for just a moment, and then verbally affirm, say out loud if you can, one positive thing about yourself or one small, achievable goal you will complete today. This just primes the pump, sets a positive intention.
Okay, morning prime, then what?
During the day, at some point, intentionally do one small thing that scares you, even just slightly. This is your daily dose of courage, that micro action we discussed. Push that comfort zone edge just a tiny bit.
And the evening.
Evening. This is the reflection and consolidation phase. Before bed, get out your notebook and write down those 3 things you did well, your nightly proof library entry. Add one thing you learned from a challenge or mistake that day. And finally, write down one thing you're genuinely grateful for.
That structure, priming in the morning, acting during the day, and reflecting in the evening, it really covers the full cycle of confidence building, doesn't it? And the principle of the 30-day challenge, that applies here too.
Oh, absolutely. If you commit to that simple, integrated routine, morning, daytime, evening, every single day for 30 consecutive days, The psychological shift will be undeniable. You are literally forcing your brain to create and strengthen new, positive, competency-based neural pathways through repetition. Consistency is what turns theoretical understanding into a proven lived reality for you.
Okay. Step 8 is building resilience. We touched on recovering from failure, but this feels deeper. It's like the heart of enduring confidence, that ability to bounce back quickly when life inevitably throws you a curveball, big or small.
Resilience really determines how fast you pivot from experiencing a setback to formulating a solution. When things go wrong, the typical unconfident response is often to slip into victim mode, asking, "Why is this happening to me?"
Mm.
That question immediately shifts the locus of control outward. It makes you feel helpless, like things are just happening at you.
Right.
The resilient, confident response is to consciously, deliberately change the question. Instantly pivot to action mode by asking, "Okay, what now?" or "What's my next best move?"
That reframe is incredibly empowering, isn't it? Because it immediately brings the focus back to what you can control, what actions you can take, however small.
It does. It forces you to assess the current situation logically and decide on the next best step forward. It's the fundamental difference between sinking under the weight of the problem and actively pivoting over it. And furthermore, we really must emphasize again the incredibly strong link between your physical state and your mental resilience.
Right. As you said, confidence just lives better in a healthy body.
It really does. Think about it. If you are consistently sleep deprived, if you're fueling your body with poor nutrition, if you're neglecting basic movement, your entire system operates under a baseline physiological state of stress. This naturally raises anxiety levels, it lowers your tolerance for risk, it makes every single challenge feel bigger and more overwhelming than it might actually be. So to build psychological resilience, you must strengthen the physical foundation. Prioritize getting enough deep sleep. Eat real food that actually fuels your brain and body. Move your body daily in a way you enjoy.
Okay. Step 9 utilizes the power of the mind again, but this time for preparation. Visualize the confident you. You mentioned this isn't just fluffy positive thinking, it's more like genuine mental rehearsal.
Exactly. This is a high-performance technique used consistently by top athletes, musicians, public speakers, surgeons, anyone who needs to perform under pressure. The practice involves closing your eyes and actively, intentionally creating a detailed, sensory-rich mental movie of the confident version of yourself successfully executing a challenging task or navigating a difficult situation. Really see yourself speaking calmly, breathing slowly and deeply, maintaining strong, steady eye contact. Imagine yourself handling unexpected obstacles or questions with ease and composure. Feel the feeling of calm capability.
How is this visualization different from just, daydreaming or fantasizing?
Fantasy is often passive wishing, "I wish things were different." Rehearsal is active practice. This is how I will respond when things get difficult. When you mentally rehearse being calm, capable, and successful, you are actually priming the relevant motor pathways and the emotional response centers in your brain. You're essentially creating a memory of success before the event even happens. This reduces the cognitive load and the shock to your system when the real event arrives. You've made the unfamiliar feel more familiar, more comfortable. The more vividly you visualize success, the less daunting the actual performance feels.
Okay, mental rehearsal. Got it. And finally, step 10. Keep going. This sounds simple, but maybe it's the hardest. The commitment to continuity.
It might be. Because confidence truly is a journey. It's a daily practice, not a fixed destination you arrive at and then stay forever. You will inevitably have doubt days. That's just part of being human. You will slip back into old habits, sometimes maybe comparing yourself or procrastinating out of fear. That is perfectly normal and okay. The key is not aiming for perfection, but for persistence. Recognize the lapse when it happens, treat yourself with compassion, not criticism, and then simply make the choice to start the habit again the very next morning. There's no permanent failure here, only temporary lapses in consistency. Keep getting back on the horse.
So the ultimate transformation really comes down to those daily, sometimes seemingly insignificant choices and actions. Every single one, every rephrased negative thought, every conscious deep breath before a challenge, every tiny micro win you record in your proof library. Each one is like planting a seed, and every seed counts. It contributes to the overall growth. You don't need to be perfect to become confident. You just need to be consistently showing up for yourself. Show up again and again and again, even when it feels deeply uncomfortable, especially when that little voice inside is screaming, "Stop! Retreat! Play it safe!" You are capable of far, far more than you currently realize. And the transformation truly begins the moment you decide to trust, not in your perfection, but in your ability to try, to learn, and to keep going.
So what does this all mean? If you take just one core, unifying takeaway from this entire detailed deep dive today, let it be this: the profound simplicity and the profound power of self-creation. Confidence is not found, it's built. It is constructed deliberately, brick by brick, not through some sudden magical revelation, but through countless small, intentional acts of courage, through consistent daily effort, through a dedicated practice of honoring your boundaries, reframing your failures as lessons, and celebrating your small wins. You, listener, are the architect of your own self-trust.
And with that, we want to leave you with an immediate action challenge. Right now, today. Commit to just one small step from everything we've discussed. Maybe it's speaking up just once in a conversation where you normally stay silent. Maybe it's trying one tiny new thing you've been putting off out of fear. Or perhaps, and this might be the most powerful starting point, dedicating just 5 minutes tonight to actually write down those 3 wins for your nightly proof library. Just start building the evidence.
Do that. Just one small thing today. Commit to one small act of courage and one small moment of reflection every single day. And one day, honestly, probably sooner than you think, you'll look back at that growing proof library. You'll reflect on the actions you've taken, and you'll realize something amazing. You didn't just build confidence. You actually built an entirely new, more resilient, more capable, and more authentic version of yourself. Keep growing, keep showing up for yourself, and please keep believing in your incredible ability to learn and improve. You've absolutely got this.